Enter xerophyte. Now, xerophyte, if I'm pronouncing it right, I'm pronouncing it like xerophyte. It's not xerophyte, it's xerophytes. Yes, I'm so bad at pronouncing that for some reason. Xerophytes are plants that are adapted to thrive or survive in dry conditions. One of the most important factors when it comes to a plant is the presence of a humid or wet environment, because you need water to thrive, because you need to carry out your metabolic processes. But when it comes to dry conditions, most plants will die out. Most plants will be useless in dry conditions, but xerophytes have specific adaptations. They've built specific adaptations over time to help them to survive and thrive in the dry atmosphere that they're living in. One of the best examples that I can give you for a xerophyte is something I'm trying to draw right now. This is a... You might be able to guess what this already is. This is a cactus. And those are thorns. And cacti have a root system. I'll try to pick a brown. Okay. Right. And they have a very extensive root system. If you have ever taken a cactus out of the pot or out of the soil or something like that, you would have seen, you should know that they have a huge network of roots. Now, if you have not taken a cactus out of a pot or something, you should now know that they have an extensive amount of roots. The reason I'll tell you in a bit. Now, first, let's just see what we have here. The first thing is, you might have noticed that cacti are very thick. They have a very thick cuticle. Why do they have a very thick cuticle? To prevent as much water loss as possible. To prevent as much water loss as possible. And this stem is what is referred to as a succulent. Is what is referred to as a succulent. Succulents are known to store water in their stems. And one of the most the key characteristics of any cactus plant would be spines. Spines instead of regular normal leaves to reduce surface area for water loss. Reduce surface area for water loss. I'll label this. This is a cactus, or in plural, you can call it not a cacti, you can call it cacti. Another diagram that you have to be familiar with is this. Now, this is going to be a little bit trickier than the cactus to understand, but it's nope. Get a circle. Right. And then it's going back because this is the cell wall. This is the outer epidermis almost. We have the structure like this. Then this is the structure. Okay. Now this is actually a straight leaf. If you think about it, that has been caved inwards. This is a straight leaf that's caved inwards. Why is the leaf caved inwards? That is to preserve as much water as possible to adapt to a xerophytic environment, a dry environment. Let's see now. They also have something like this. Simply hairs. Let's label these parts one by one. Often you find the stoma here. The stomata are here in these pits. Whenever we find stoma in pits, we call them sunken stoma. We call them sunken stoma. What's the usage of sunken stoma? Again, to reduce water loss. Obviously, you know all these adaptations are to reduce water loss in the long run. Reduce water loss in the long run. And what about these hairs? What do these hairs do? So we have things like these hairs. These hairs are known for trapping moisture inside. Known for trapping moisture inside. Those are two adaptations that this plant has. I'll tell you what this plant specifically is so that you can do a small Google search and get a better idea. One last thing now, I told you that this plant is ideally caved in. What makes this possible? What makes this caving in possible is some things known as hinge cells. So these hinge cells that bend the leaves in. So therefore, the leaf is rolled. These hinge cells make this possible. Other plants might have other adaptations like closed stomata during daylight to prevent water loss or any other forms of adaptations. It's going to differ a lot from plant to plant. These are two examples of plants you should know. The first one is cacti, and this is actually a grass known as marram. So we'll call it marram grass. You can just give it a small Google search and see the structure and see how everything is caved in. And these are xerophytes. There's a ton more xerophytes. You can just research on xerophytes if you are interested in their extensive ability to store water and prevent water loss in dry conditions.